put me questions.
Man hug?
Sit down. Yeah. Oyster? No, sort of, it's like, You right?
Yeah, this place is different.
It is, isn't it?
What's going on?
What?
Why the pirate ship?
What pirate ship?
That pirate ship. The pound
I really don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, let's get down to business. So, yes, okay. Tom, tell us a bit about what do you do? What do you do for a living?
I run my own construction company in Tunbridge, and we build buildings for local councils, schools in London, stuff like that. Not particularly interesting.
No, it doesn't sound it. So, tell us a bit about. So, were you always brought up a Christian? Did you come from a Christian household? Did you go to church from an early age?
Yeah, I grew up in Ireland in a Protestant church. From a very young age was at Sunday school every Sunday, and we went to group in the week. Thanks. I'll put it on here.
I don't know. Is that one working? Okay.
I'll just hold it.
Okay.
So so grew up in a Christian home.
And the answer to your question is no, it's not working. So,
Right, so I'll just speak louder. Yeah, so it was, that's it. Switch this on. Hold on.
Right.
So, I was brought up in a Christian home from a very young age. Went to Sunday school, went to youth group during the week.
How was church for you?
Quite scary, I guess. I felt lots of other people got it and I didn't. And I had quite an underlying feeling of I didn't really fit in. I think it wasn't just at church, it was at school as well. Because me and my brother came from the country and we went to a town school, so kind of felt we didn't fit in at school either. And also sort of people that went to our church were kind of seen as the holy Joes, if you like, at school. So I really felt I didn't fit in at school or at church, really.
Okay, so you left. So you went to church. You didn't really get it, or you didn't think you got it, and then you left school. And what did you go and do?
I left school and I went to college, and very shortly after that, my mum and dad split up. And from growing up in a Christian home, both parents going to church, that was quite a shock. And, I guess I kind of played on that because it kind of was license for me to do whatever I wanted, really. I was 17 at the time. So I kind of rebelled for a while. And then I joined the military. I joined the Royal Marines when I was 19.
So how was it for you being in the Royal Marines?
Very, very different to what I expected. But, I loved every minute of it. It kind of, I didn't have anybody to answer to, and that sounds weird. Being in the military is, there's a lot of discipline, but, there's nobody telling me what to think or what to believe. And basically, weekends were free to do what we wanted to do. Could drink as much alcohol as you wanted, and just stuff like that generally. So it was, when we weren't working, it was quite free.
Okay. So when you were working, I take it wasn't just the UK, you were all over the world.
Yeah, I served in Northern Ireland, actually, and Iraq. It was a long way from little old Northern Ireland out there. So, it was an experience. So.
And when you were in the military, I believe you met your wife?
Yes, my wife, she was at university on her year out, and she had a job near the military base where I was based, down in Poole, in Dorset, and that's where we met. So I met her in 2003, she's the first girl that really kind of made me take stock and want to sort of change my ways.
Okay. So how did you change? What did you do?
I tried to change. I left the Marines, and she didn't ask me to, but after coming home from Iraq, I didn't really want to put her through another sort of 6-month tour of not knowing where I was, what was happening, and if I was dead or alive, because we lost friends out there, and she, the news wasn't forthcoming, so she would hear everything off the news. So I couldn't. I didn't really want to put her through that, so I left the Marines thinking that probably that would change me, because by that stage, when I wasn't working, I was drinking pretty much every evening. I knew in the back of my mind that had to change if I was in any way serious about this girl. So, yeah.
Okay, so you got married, and your drinking habits changed?
I thought they did, but looking back now, they didn't. The surroundings changed. Initially, I hadn't actually realised how bad my drinking got until I left the Marines, and I then tried to stop. Initially, I felt they were under control because we were living with her mother, and it was kind of rules I had to live by. But I soon got a job as a building site manager in London, and I remember very, very vividly my first day on the job. I went to the company's head office, picked up a laptop, mobile phone, and got given, this is your site address, and report to this guy called Andy. And Andy was the contracts manager, I was going to be the site manager, and there was a guy, an assistant site manager, who was going to be my assistant. So when I turned up, my boss, my new boss, wasn't there. This was about, I guess, 1:30, 2:00. And I said to the guy who was my assistant, what's happening this afternoon? And there wasn't, to my view, a great deal of critical things happening. So I said, let's go to the pub and get to know each other. And I thought that was a perfectly reasonable thing to do, because that's what I'd been used to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and I know part of your story, and so your drinking got worse. You had some children, and it actually got to the point where your wife left you, and that was really sort of, you hit real low at that point.
Yeah. I got to the stage very, very quickly actually, within sort of 2 years of leaving the Marines, sort of between 2006 and I guess 2009 were really my rock bottom years, where I got to the stage where I actually couldn't walk past a pub. Whenever I left work, there was a particular pub, especially in Notting Hill Gate in London, and couldn't, and it sounds crazy now, but I actually physically couldn't walk past the pub, and would end up either not coming home or coming home on the first train, because we lived in Brighton at this time, or coming home on the first train the next morning because I've missed the last one with a hangover and making up all sorts of excuses for work. And just lying to everybody that had ever really given me a chance. Meanwhile, my wife fell pregnant with our first child. We had our first child. Then we had our second child, Erin, in 2008. And I really, really tried to get sober then. And went to Alcoholics Anonymous. And, it worked. I stopped drinking through Alcoholics Anonymous, but there was a massive emptiness in my life. And actually the reason my wife left me wasn't because of the drinking, it was because of the drinking, but I think the straw that kind of, as the saying goes, broke the camel's back was after being 18 months sober, I had an affair. This wasn't long after our second child was born. And it was just another way of trying to satisfy, I guess. I thought it was boredom, but...
So your life has fallen apart.
Yeah.
You are, your marriage has fallen apart. You can't cope without a drink. And then you reconnect with church. How?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I was, by this stage I'd moved to Crowborough. And this was 2010. And I'd always been into music. And used to listen to things like Guns N' Roses and lots of sort of heavy rock music. And my brother, Christian guy, who's 19 at the time. Now I was 31 at this time. He emailed his older 31-year-old brother and basically sent me a link to some Christian music. I said, why don't you start learning some of this? You never know, it might do you good. L-L-L-O-O-O-O-L, you know. And my drinking really... I started drinking again. As soon as I moved to Crowborough, I started drinking again because I could do what I wanted. And I just remember being on my sofa in my flat in Crowborough and listening to UCB radio on a Sunday afternoon with a really bad my hangovers got so bad I thought every time I had one I was going to die. My heart would, really beat irregularly and just awful. But this peace really filled the flat. I don't even know what the songs were, and I started to get an interest in church, and then I started. I'd lost my driving license by that stage, so started coming along here to All Saints and also to another church up in London, and it completely changed my view on who God was. Coming here and going to that church, so.
And so you found, or more likely, Jesus found you. Yeah. And what difference has that made to your life?
It's made a huge difference to my life. It has been a massive weight off my shoulders because I've reluctantly at times given Jesus control, which goes against everything I've ever really been taught as a Marine, as a man. But the more I go on now with God, the more glad I am that I don't have to do it all. And it really, I never thought that a relationship with God could be so personal. And it's stuff that happens that you just can't explain to anyone else, or you do and they're like, even among other Christians, it's just a really, really personal thing. And life hasn't got easier. But it's so much more rewarding without a shadow of a doubt. My biggest thing, I guess, through my whole life was self-confidence. I was always trying to confirm who I was to myself. It's really, I really thank God for that revelation of He's shown me how He sees me. And it's been amazing.
So your life has changed. You're sober. You don't drink anymore. You're back with your wife. Yep. You have another baby. Yep. Well, it's not so much a baby anymore. Yep. And things are going well. So if you want to know more about Tom, ask him afterwards. He'll tell you more about himself. We've just touched on it. I want to ask you two different... We ask people lots of questions. That's why we got these big questions from. We had some other questions. So I just want to ask you two more questions and then we'll finish, okay? So the two questions are... Big Mac or Burger King, or a sort of, a Whopper?
Whopper burger with McDonald's chips.
so Glenn's yes on
Burger
that
King
one.
chips are awful.
Okay, so how many for Big Mac? Okay, Whopper? Really can't stand any of that sort of stuff. Excellent. So, one for Jack. Okay, fine. So, okay, and the other one is Kit Kat or Oreos? Wait, don't put him under pressure. It's his answer, not yours.
Not really into either. Terry's chocolate orange.
Do you hear that noise? That's your credibility just disappearing over the hills here. So who's Oreos? Kit Kat? Okay, Oreos have it. So, Tom, thank you so much. Round of applause for Tom, please.